Welcome to the Mavens of Marketing, a weekly podcast hosted by me, Rachel Durkin.
And me, Carrie Barrett. We talk all things marketing, innovation, sales, and business growth strategies, and the standard tried and true marketing techniques.
Come for the conversation, stay for the savvy insights.
And the borderline inappropriate jokes. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Mavens of Marketing. We have an amazing podcast for you today. I'm Carrie Barrett, founder and owner of Carrie Barrett Consulting. And we're here obviously with Rachel Durkin, the president of Paradigm Marketing and Design, and Sheila Donovan. It's good to have you with us as well. You're our sort of star guest of the day.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell our audience who may not know who you are and what you do just yet, who you are and what you do.
So I've been in marketing for over 20 years and owned a global marketing company and served clients like National Geographic, Wharton School of Business, Macy's, Postal Service, very big clients. And I helped them find their customer base around the world. And then privacy laws changed, which is something I'm going to talk about. So significantly, I turned my focus back to domestic marketing because it's so hard to market internationally these days. And also, I really have a passion for helping small businesses. So that's my focus today, is helping small businesses learn how to use social media to grow their business.
And Sheila and I have been working together for almost a year now with, we're supporting a lot of our small business clients. We've had a lot of success as she's helped us. I find the way I talk about Sheila is she's a data geek, but I mean that in the best possible way.
I am a data geek.
Her is a data geek.
Yes.
Talk for hours about numbers and I don't understand most of it.
And how to use the data.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And how to use the data. And that's really what I did for my very large global clients, was find data internationally. And when you're working with international data, you know, some countries have postal codes, some don't. So how you dive in on that data is totally different. And I don't want to get off on a tangent. We have very nice structured data here in the US. That's not true everywhere in the world. But for some of my clients, you know, if they wanted to find women that would buy children's clothes around the world, I would help them do that.
So are you're saying you can find anybody who wants anything anywhere and you can
and legally.
Absolutely. Give me enough time and give me the data. And one thing I want to point out is that there is a lot of big data available to small businesses, but they just don't understand the concept. And big data is what we're all working with and using to find our target audiences online. So when you think about like Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, they know your preferences, right? We click on what we like. We watch videos if we like them, and we engage with brands and content that we like. And they're storing that data and analyzing it. Now it's kind of arm's length from us. We don't get to see exactly what Rachel Durkin is looking at, or, you know, exactly what kind of food Carrie Barrett likes, but we know that Rachel Durkin has young children, for example. So we're able to target her based on that information. So Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms have an enormous amount of big data, and we're able to use that to target our audience. But we first must know that audience like we know our best friend. That's what I always tell people. You have to know your audience like you know your best friend, all those details. Now, there's some details that are irrelevant, but you really want to focus on the preferences, like the lifestyle of your customer and what their causes that they're interested in. Are they a holistic person? Do they like to travel? All those type of things come into play. But again, small business has big data at its disposal. However, there's a big change coming, ladies, big change coming. Right. And that is the Facebook iOS update. And what's happening is Apple is taking a huge stance when it comes to consumer privacy. And what they're doing is making it very visible for people to opt out. And I want to read what Facebook, if I can find it, what Facebook says about that update, because the Apple iOS update, they say that it's a very obvious opt-out mechanism for consumers using the Facebook platform. And that's true. But people have never liked to be tracked, right? You know, it's all kind of creepy. We know
we have always been tracked. We are just starting to catch on to it. And I think the regulations are starting to change. And before you talk about this update, Sheila, I just kind of want to make everyone who's listening aware that this data you're talking about, it's always been available to us, but I don't know that as marketers, we've always used it properly. And social networks have really taken it to the next level because they are able to track our interests and our actions and our reactions to things. And it's also made the marketing to that audience, I don't want to say easier, but easier. Almost anybody can do it. Now, can anybody do it well? Probably not, but almost anybody can do it. And this change you're about to talk about is going to be a pretty big shock to all of our systems if you're in the marketing world. So I would love you to talk about that now.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. You know, I've been in marketing for a really long time. And in days of old, that data was there. It was just in a different format. We would take like the catalogs you subscribe to and build a database based on those preferences, the magazines that you subscribe to, and build a database based on that information. But now it's real time. It's real time. Mm-hmm. It's what you click on. It's what you watch. And also, I mean, these platforms are very good. Like when you're looking for a house, you look for mortgages. Once you buy the house, you look for furniture, right? Mm-hmm. So the preferences change over time. Once you have a baby, that baby gets older. But I do want to talk about what Facebook says about this update. It says Apple will begin to implement that all apps in the App Store show a discouraging prompt to users on iOS 14 devices in accordance with their app tracking transparency. So they're making it very easy for people to you have opt-in to tracking. So what Facebook is doing is tightening the window for something called attribution, which is how long they track you. So for things like conversions, it used to be 28 days. Now it's going to be 7, but it's still good data, ladies. You know, you can still use this data to target your audience online.
Sheila, can I jump in and ask a really basic question? Because I don't know exactly what you mean when you say the conversion changes from 28 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean for the average person? Because I have no idea.
So when you click on something, how long is that information stored? Mm-hmm. If you make a purchase online, how long is that information stored? That's a conversion. When you take action, the desired action that the advertiser wants. The advertiser might want you to buy something. The advertiser might want you to sign up for a webinar. The advertiser might want you to download a PDF, come to their store. So how long that has been recorded, that's called a conversion, because you've converted into the behavior that the advertiser wants.
For example, Sheila and I will be running campaigns on, let's say on Facebook, Carrie, let's say you're doing a course and we're going to run an ad for you on Facebook. In the beginning, the best strategy is to run an awareness ad so that Sheila can get all the data she needs on what type of people are looking at that ad. Now, obviously before that, she's done a ton of research, but then we run the ad and we want to look at who's watching it, how long they're watching it, all that good stuff. And the reason we run an awareness ad first is because it's more affordable. Right. And then we can get the data we want over 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, and then adjust it. After that, we switch to a conversion campaign. Now, understand the difference between awareness and conversion. Facebook is looking at who's watching it, and then it's smart, right? It's going to retarget similar people in our audience that are similar to those who are already watching it. So almost like makes them look alike those others so that you get more and more. They want more impressions because they want to make more money, because right now for awareness, we're paying per impression. Yeah. Now, when we switch to conversions, the cost per conversion goes up, which means it's more, let's say it was 50 cents to get an awareness or one look at your ad, and it becomes $3.50 to get a conversion, which means they click on the ad, they fill out the form, and it's considered a conversion. Okay. Now, the reason we switch to conversions is because the call to action, Facebook will start targeting audiences that are like others who converted. And so that's ultimately where we want to get with any ad, because we want to get people to conversions. Now, what Sheila's saying is it used to be 28 days. So if I came to an ad and then didn't convert until several days later, it still counted me as part of that audience to create a greater audience from. Okay. But now it's shrinking that time. So the data is becoming, I don't want to say less valuable, but it's a smaller pool because it's monitoring it for a shorter period.
So it's a shorter window. In order to be in that pool, 7 days to click over and make the conversion. Whereas
exactly.
Got it. Okay.
It will still track, people who convert. So Facebook knows people that are just browsers, and it knows people that will actually click and leave the platform and go and buy something. It knows everything about the users on its platform, right? So out of the group of people, I love to travel. So out of the people that will love to travel, some people will just look at the pictures and look at the videos. Some people will actually click on the ad and go and see what the offer is, and it knows who those people are. So as Rachel has indicated, you always start with awareness to see which of your audiences, because you want to test a couple of audiences, work best, right? Then we want to switch to conversions or a higher level of ad. There's also traffic ads in there that we could go to, but it's refining the audience. The thing is that in terms of tracking for our behavior and our ads reporting, it's gone down to now 7 days. So we'll have to see how this pans out, because it's all very new and it's not 100% clear to me how it's actually going to affect the numbers. Maybe I'll come back for a second podcast, ladies, right? But anyway, so that's the important thing. But privacy is obviously a big thing. So let's transition here. You can use Facebook's own data, their big data, to target your audience, but don't forget that you have to engage your audience. And Carrie, you are a master at this. I see you on social media all the time, engaging your audience and bringing them back to
somebody
you.
that's pretending to be me.
Only like half the time.
It's all me.
It is. And you do a fine job. You do a really good job. So we don't forget there's other ways to do it. You don't just have to run ads, creating great content, being consistent with your content, which I'm not always, but doing good content, engaging content. And the one thing that we all technically kind of own is our email list. Never forget to build your email list with strategic offers. I mean, if you're selling something, that's great, but still try to build an email list so that you have another mechanism to be in touch with people.
Well, I didn't really understand, and I'll be honest for our audience, I'm only about 2 years into business, and I had zero business background before I started. I was a journalist. And I was reporting on crime and potholes.
Fascinating.
So I really had no idea how any of this worked and how any of this came together and why an email list was important. And then I went back and I was like, oh, well, I get an email from the Gap and I wouldn't know that they had a sale unless I saw this email. And then, oh, look, there's I had 10 new t-shirts that show up at my door the next day. And I realized why that email list is important, but also is it partly because technically you may have a Facebook and an Instagram account and a Twitter and all that other stuff, but you don't really own it. They could all go away.
Yes.
The only thing you really own is, correct? I mean, that's why part of the reason an email list is so important.
Yeah, you're a renter. We're all renters on the Facebook, all social media platforms. Now your email list, I mean, obviously if you're using an email service provider such as MailChimp, Constant Contact and the like, they own the platform, but you technically own that file and you could email people one at a time or through an email service provider like that. But email is a great way to stay in touch with people as well, because you can drive traffic to your website, you can tell people, drive traffic to your store, you can announce something for your business or just stay in touch. You don't always have to sell, but you're absolutely right, Carrie. We own our email list. We do not own Facebook. We do not own Instagram. And Facebook ad costs have shot up in recent years. I mean, astoundingly. What am I going to do about it? Pay it or not?
This is the concept of brand assets that I'm always talking to my clients about. We know on average it takes 9 to 13 touches to build trust with the brand. And a touch can be a Facebook post or an email or a hit to the website or a conversation with a salesperson. And really the goal of every touch is to drive users to the next touch, not necessarily to get them to buy now. It's about increasing awareness and driving that touch process. So one of our main goals with clients is to use their social accounts to build their email list so we can continue that touch process in a direct way. And it's so important. And a lot of people, I think, overlook that and want to go for the direct win, so to speak, like go from Facebook to our website and buy something. But the email list is, in addition to you owning it, it's so important because it's a direct conversation that you can have, while all of the other social platforms are going to have algorithms that are going to filter out different things unless you're paying to play, so to speak.
Yeah, a social reach. I mean, organic social reach is basically dead on Facebook. It's like 1 to 2%. So if you're lucky, people will see it, but it's engineered. Let's be honest with each other. So these social platforms are engineered now to make a lot of money. That's the bottom line. And, you know, unless you're like, you know, a huge influencer or a famous person, it's very hard to get organic reach on these platforms.
So one of the things that you're talking about, Facebook and organic reach, they're changing the way though that they're asking people to connect with you, right? It's whether you have a fan page or a profile page or a business page, it's no longer likes, it's follows, or
right.
What's going on there? Or that's coming?
It is. And that's the Facebook new experiences, which they're promoting right now. And you can change to new experience, which is a new layout. There's so many different features, but the biggest structural change is that they want people to follow a page, no longer like, which I find the most incredible change, you know, a platform built on likes, and now we're supposed to follow. It's also very confusing. I personally have not changed to new experiences, but they want people to follow your page, not like it. So if you're currently liking a page, you automatically follow it. But let's say I don't want to get your updates, so I will unfollow pages. And lots of people do that. So you'll see a difference in the metrics, the number of people that follow and the number of people that like, right? So what they're positioning now is that we should all follow pages. And that's coming very soon. This is their new experiences. It's optional, but you can read about it, and I'll have a blog post about it on Facebook New Experiences. However, at the moment, I've changed the button on my page to follow. It used to say like, now it says follow.
You have to do that manually. I can't keep up with all of this stuff. I feel like it's so important, but it is the beast that is never satiated. And just when you think you haven't figured out, it goes and changes things on you.
I start my business day, reading like changes in social media. And then some of them, I mean, there's other changes. There's Clubhouse and all this kind of stuff.
I love Clubhouse.
Yeah.
You love Clubhouse?
I do. I find it's really interesting because it's growing so quickly right now, but it's still not as broadly. I mean, it's not available on Android yet. So you're jumping in with, you know, especially considering that Android is really the system of choice outside of the US. You have such a smaller pool. It makes it easier for your voice to be heard, is I guess what I'm getting at. So you can jump in a room with a bunch of new contacts. And not only have I found a pool of people on Clubhouse, and I've only been on 2 or 3 times, but I find that there's a good crossover from Clubhouse to Instagram and Twitter. So it's a great way to grow your following and your influence on those platforms as well. And it's really neat. I mean, you know, you hop into a room and there's a huge CEO, a celebrity CEO, who's up on there for hours, sort of just doling out advice. It's a great way to connect with people that you perhaps wouldn't normally have the opportunity to.
What I find so fascinating,
so you don't have to look pretty.
What I find so well, that's true. What I find so fascinating about Clubhouse, though, is that it almost seems to me, and I get all the value to it, where we've come so far in being able to consume on-demand content that we're circling back to the days of, you know, the television where you have to show up at like 10 o'clock to watch the show you want. It's kind of fascinating to me that we're going full circle into how we're consuming content.
Absolutely. I think that's, you know, and that's an interesting point, Rachel. The traction that live streaming is getting right now on any platform, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or Periscope via Twitter, is huge. The algorithms prefer it. People love it for its authenticity. You can't go back and edit anything out. What you see is what you get. And there's sort of that like, oh, what's going to happen next? Is she going to go off the rails? I want to be there to hear it all go down if she does or he does. And that's part of Clubhouse, right? You don't have the video component, but you do have that real, there's no editing. It's
the motivation to me, the consumer motivation, which we're actually going to talk about in another podcast, is fascinating, of why we're going for full circle. But I want to just segue back to something that you said before, Sheila, about how only, you know, on Facebook particularly, only about 1 to 2% of your followers are seeing your organic content. And one of the things I was going to say about that is maybe to those listening is I still don't believe organic content is dead, but I think of how you use it. I can't tell you how many small businesses come to me and they're like, I'm just going to post once a week just to have the lights on. And really, to me, it's like, why bother? So just putting content out there to put it out there is really, I would say the word, and I think it's a strong word, useless. But I think that putting out content purposefully that is going to drive engagement, that's going to drive conversation, that, I've even had plants where we'll run a campaign or a contest or a giveaway. And I say, Carrie, I'm going to call you out and we're going to have a fight, which we're doing for fun anyway, because we like to have fights. But, it's a great way to increase. Well, it's a really entertaining argument. It's a fierce conversation, but so I don't know if what, I know this is about data, this conversation, but I don't know what your opinion is on organic content and creating ways to keep that alive for business owners or marketing professionals who want to supplement that in addition to their paid
well, this content. Is something I see you doing a lot. You put it on your personal page and also on your business page. That's one. And I think, I have this inexpensive strategy for boosted posts that I recommend for people. So, find your target audience, which we talked about earlier in this podcast, spend $5 or $10, and then just boost that post to that audience and find your best audience and just keep posting to them. Like anybody can afford $5 or $10 a week to invest in their business.
On that, and I think that's a really good tool, because I was going to ask you to share some tools with us for that boosting content. And I'm going to assume that we're still just talking about Facebook here. Though I think it was also very applicable on LinkedIn. What kind of content should they be choosing to boost? It's not going to be every single post, I'm assuming. Can you just give me an example of, just for those listening?
Yeah, well, you said it, anything video, and Carrie said it, anything video, because people want to be entertained. And I was at a social media conference and the guy was brilliant. And he said, why do people watch videos? They're curious, right? We're curious and we want to be entertained. So they will pass by, static images versus and be entertained by video. Anything real life that brings somebody into your business, I think is great. So there's a lot of small businesses, brick and mortars, that are struggling. Bring them inside your business. Let them have a look around. If you run a pizza shop, make some pizza, whatever it is. If you offer a service business, you can always dispense advice, and just make it engaging content. And it's not always selling. You said that, Rachel, and it's so true. It can be helping before selling is really, really important. And that's how you increase value. Don't you agree, ladies?
Helping, like tips, tricks,
ideas,
easy to implement strategy, thoughts, etc. Got it. Okay. Yeah. When you boost something, and I actually did this on my own last week with a giveaway just to see how the traction changed. I put $10 towards it. How do you go back and then you look at the analytics, like who watched this, and then these are the types of people that I want to target, and then you keep targeting them in the same way by boosting similar sorts of posts, or how do
you can always spend a small budget to target them with posts. But then when you have something that you really want to sell, you have a primed audience that's been seeing you. And that's when it's time to go to a conversion ad, which we're already
warmed up.
What you just said, Carrie, can be a little bit dangerous, right? So if you just run an ad and you're like, oh, these people are watching me, they're my target audience. That can be dangerous because maybe they're not, right? I can't tell you how many times, actually, Carrie, you're a great example, right? If you don't mind me picking on you, we did an analysis of Carrie's target audience on her social channels. And a lot of the conversations we were having were probably focused more towards women professionals, or it seemed to be skewing that way, but her following was mostly men. And so by stopping to look at your audience DNA every so often, even after you boost something or run an ad, making sure you're actually A, talking to the people you want to be, but B, maybe the people who are following you are who you want to be talking to, but your future content or the current content you're talking about is not appealing to them. So making sure you're
the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's so pretty. Yeah. I mean, she's gorgeous. That's why
suddenly we know why all the men are following Carrie.
Absolutely. But you had asked Rachel about some tools.
See what's there. It's quite special.
You had asked about some tools, and this is like step one, and I see people skip it all the time, which is you can create audiences using, the Facebook tools, right? So it's in like the business section. and click on audiences and create your audiences first. Don't create them on the fly. Give it a lot of thought. So if Carrie really wants to reach women and avoid the men, get the men out of the audience. So create your audiences first, which then become what's that?
She said, don't leave.
Which then becomes available to you in boosted posts. You can use them in ads, and think about your audiences. And you know this, Rachel, we've worked together and we've created distinctly different audiences, and then we find our winner. And that's who.
And sometimes it's really like, wow, I didn't think that was going to be the right audience. But and to that point, I always say, you know, a lot of marketers or business owners, I find to me, marketing comes down to three things every time. Every single action, and from the year-long plan you're creating to the Facebook post you're going to boost, comes down to three things. Who are you talking to? What's your message that's going to resonate with them? And how are you going to go to market, AKA the Facebook campaign or the boosted posts? What I find is that most people jump right to number three. I'm going to run a Facebook ad. And they don't stop to think, is my audience really here and who are they? And what am I saying that's going to make them pay attention? Because I'm telling you right now, the first one and the second one, audience and messaging, are 90%, in my opinion, of any good strategy. And Sheila, even as we work together, I think that you'll agree, knowing the data, the audience, and the message, that makes every campaign. The rest of it is it doesn't matter. Going through the actions is important, but it's knowing who you're talking to, what you're going to say, and having the right data to make that happen.
It does. It does.
Go ahead.
And again, small businesses have access to big data, the biggest data there is on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other platforms. And you're absolutely right, because you guys do some phenomenal creative at Paradigm. You can have the best creative in the world. If you're showing it to the wrong people, it's dead in the water. Dead in the water, right?
One really interesting free tool, and I'm so ashamed to say this, one of our clients is Maine, which is a consortium of libraries. And before they were our client, I didn't know, I don't think I even had a library card until like a year and a half or 2 years ago, which is really bad to say. But once I learned about the amount of digital data you can get by simply having a library card, you can go onto the main website, you can get access to Info USA, all different types of census data. I mean, it's endless and it's free. All you need is a library card. So I encourage businesses and marketers to check that out, because it's a great resource.
And even now, if you do have a library card, I know that a lot of libraries are closed, but you can access that information from your own computer.
And you can even get free digital books, which have been keeping me going during this.
What's something that I could leave this message today and do, aside from, boost some posts or look at audiences? There's something I should be doing every day?
Well, something that you should be doing every day is creating content, but go and learn about the new experiences for the Facebook business page, and consider changing the button on your page from like to follow, so that people that start to follow you will be permanently with you, regardless of what changes come up. In terms of any new tools, I've not become aware of anything that we're not using, but of course there's always, email service providers. MailChimp you can use for free, which is one of my favorites. Canva.com.
Canva's great. Sheila turned me on to Canva, and it's really awesome. And what I love about it is I actually find that ads that I run of my face don't do as well as a 3-slide Canva does with infographics. It's kind of depressing for me, but also really impressive because Canva is very cheap and easy to do. And I don't have to get on camera then.
Yeah. And you can set it up for free, but I think about a month and a half ago, I forked over the $14.95 per month for Canva. And now I have access to a wealth of stock videos that I was buying on other sites.
Yeah.
So Canva is great. I love Canva, MailChimp. And I think those are some of my favorite tools for the, basic beginner.
One of my favorite tools for social is Sprout Social. It's a little bit more expensive than like Hootsuite is, but the amount of data you can get on your audience DNA, who's watching you, which posts are the most engaging. And then also I love the comparison you can do between yourself and your competitors and look at their audience DNA and which posts are most engaging for them. That's a really valuable tool if you're willing to. It's not very expensive. I would say about $30 a month per platform, but the data you can get from it is astounding.
Yeah, it is an excellent tool. One last thing I want to talk about, which is the question always came up about hashtags on Facebook. Hashtags are back in on Facebook. So
they are. Wait, this is huge because if I copy something over, sorry to jump in, get rid of the hashtags because I feel like they're useless.
No, but do the little trick where you put ... so it pushes the hashtags down. So people have to read more. You don't want people, being distracted by a hashtag. So it's just there for the benefit of Facebook because they're curating their content, right? So especially you, Carrie, with your videos, you could easily slide into the, video section. ...
And that means I should be using like hashtags that say video or
hashtag awesome PR lady. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you just like any platform like Instagram or Twitter, you should be researching the hashtags, what's being searched around your content. So just don't put, you can put whatever you want, but I would put some thought behind it.
No, you have to research the hashtags, and people either put ones that have like 10 million, hits or they make them up like, my favorite shirt. And it's like, they don't understand. So research how hashtags work. You want hashtags that have a good amount of followers, but not millions. And that's how you get visibility.
Will be lost in a pool of millions, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Question about hashtags, because I read information on both sides of this. One is throw in 30 hashtags if you need to make sure that you're everywhere you need to be. The other side says that looks crazy and desperate, and you're actually doing yourself a disservice by putting so many hashtags in there. You should just do maybe 5 or so key ones. Do you fall on one side of the...
I fall on the second side, which is like no more than 30 hashtags. I find it just like you said, desperate or just, I don't see the benefit to it. And we all know engagement on social media is the way to go. So it's just spending more time commenting on people's stuff on like Instagram is what gets me more business.
Right.
And then it leads to a direct message, which leads to something else. So
as far as some of the changes with the new administration, is there anything that we need to be sort of aware of, or at least have our eyes open for some of those additional things that could be coming down the pike?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because that's something that I've been watching myself, because I think it's inevitable that there will be some type of regulation surrounding social media. We know how social media has influenced the political environment in some very negative ways worldwide, not just in the United States. So I anticipate some type of regulation. I think the former administration wanted to break apart Instagram and Facebook. I think that there will be some more regulations, so we should watch for that. So I think some of the strategies as a small business owner, which Rachel has said time and time again, put the engaging content out there, have your email list, and, stay in touch with people. But I fully anticipate once things calm down, because, trying to manage the pandemic and the economy, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. And I'll tell you, honestly, ladies, that's what really made it so rough for me doing global marketing was the regulations when they came out with Privacy Shield version 2, and which is now defunct because the prior US administration just, decided not to renew it, I guess. But anyway, the regulations by country were astounding, where I could have been subject up to a 4% annual turnover fine for an infraction. And you were responsible in every single country. Even it was very complicated, but that was one of the things. The Europeans are much more privacy conscious than we are, with much more fierce regulations that actually are enforced and have teeth. It's coming. Consumers want it. Apple is leading the way, right? And they're smart, I think, because consumers are saying, you know what? You don't need to know everything about me. You need to know what I want to tell you. There were some issues in the European Union, not to scare you guys, but it's what's happening. Insurance companies compiling health information and selling it to social media companies.
I'm seeing this so often between the GDPR and accessibility requirements. And there's a huge difference between the EU and other countries and the US and what's required. Though I see those laws changing, what I do find is for small businesses and marketers alike, you almost need an entire law degree to keep up with, are you compliant in what you need to be? At least for us with our clients, we need to follow along constantly. Mm-hmm. So it is fascinating to me, the difference though, if you just look at like ADA requirements, what the EU has passed and what the US is dragging their feet on, I would have guessed that we would be in a very different place with accessibility requirements digitally than we are now in the US. So, and I think that comes a lot back to the Small Business Bureau and how they're trying to, there's a polarized effect in our government, but how they're trying to protect small businesses from these regulations. Now, whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know, but I find all of that something that we all have to keep an eye on between privacy data and the different requirements that are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, but I think, you're giving some good advice there, Rachel, that we should all hear is just be privacy compliant, because a privacy violation is not a fun experience. No. And I worked with a woman 2 years ago who got on the ORD blacklists for spam. Yeah. Forget it. She couldn't send, so ORD blacklist, there are blacklists in the sky that anti-spam filters subscribe to. If they tag your business or your domain as a generator of spam, it will be impossible to send messages. So I think it's just good advice. Respect people's privacy, use opt-in marketing, do all the things that Rachel said to build engagement and build your email list and do the videos like Carrie and get out there and talk to the people, but be privacy compliant, because privacy, we want it. I think consumers don't know what has gone on, but once you said they're getting clued into it and people are, they want to live a private life.
Tell our audience where they can find you if they have additional questions about what you do or how you may be able to help them.
Well, for small businesses, I offer a program called Real Clear Marketing, realclearmarketing.com. They can visit that website. You can find me on LinkedIn at Sheila Donovan. And also I have my SheilaDonovan.com website and Real Clear Marketing, which is my courses website. If you want to buy any of my courses on social media marketing, digital marketing strategy, and the like.
Awesome. Sheila, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been a blast. And
I feel so much smarter.
I hope to come back. I'll keep you guys clued in on some of the big changes. And thanks so much for inviting me. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Sheila.
Alrighty.
It's a teaser. Coming up on next week's episode of the Mavens of Marketing. If you haven't heard this woman's name, I don't know where you've been hiding. Amy Porterfield. She is the master when it comes to online course creation. We're going to talk to her about how to do it, how to sell it, and how much money you can make. And oh, by the way, we talked to her about her secret behind the scenes addiction. So join us next week.